there's still one thing by far and away that voters are the most concerned about at the national level, and that's health care. If Democrats are going to have a successful election this fall, health care is really the issue that's going to drive that. And I think that sometimes people lose sight of issues that actually affect people day to day when there's so much intrigue going on about Trump and Russia and special prosecutors and that kind of thing. But most of the day-to-day drama that's coming out of Washington, D.C. right now has very little effect on people's daily lives anywhere outside of Washington, D.C. And what we're finding voters are the most concerned about when it comes to, real issues in their lives are health care. And then the other thing that we've found really rising to the top this year is guns, which is a little unusual.
Yeah. So any insights as to what people think about health care or guns? I mean, obviously they probably want health care and don't want to be killed by a gun, but is there anything beyond that we could say about what their attitudes are?
Well, on health care, obviously we're heading into what seems to be a strongly Democratic election cycle, and really the single biggest reason for that were the Republican sort of abortive efforts to get rid of the Affordable Care Act last year. It would have been hard to imagine saying this in 2010, but the Affordable Care Act really is popular now, and people want it to stay in place, and there's just a great deal of concern that if Republicans actually got to do what they want to do on health care, that it would result in fewer people having coverage and higher costs. So there's a lot of concern there. And then on gun issues, there is just a strong sentiment that it's really finally time to do something. And there's 90% support for things like background checks on gun purchases and raising the age to buy a gun and stuff like that. But we're even pretty consistently seeing support in the 60 to 70% range now for things like banning assault weapons that I think in the past would have been a little bit more controversial. One thing really interesting that we found in the national picture in polling about guns is that when we asked people how they feel about the high school students protesting across the country, they really like them. When we asked them how they feel about the NRA, they don't like them. So I think there's been a real shift in the politics on the gun issue where, 10 years ago, I think Democrats were scared to do anything about this and sort of ran away from it. And now I think voters are so disgusted with the NRA that there is an appetite to be more proactive on these issues that maybe there hasn't been before.